One of the issues I feel strongest about, domestically speaking, is crime and justice, and I've never shied away from making it clear that I'm hardline on this, and I feel very strongly that people who hurt society have to be held account. Um, anyway, one of my videos I had labelled, I had Britain in the title, and someone pointed out to me that England and Wales and Scotland, Northern Ireland, it's devolved basically. Now I knew this, but it's a fair point. I'd spoken about Britain's soft justice system, and actually the point still stands. I think that it is soft across the system, but there are different systems in place. So I'm going to read out a report here which highlights Scotland's soft justice system. I mean, like I said in my response to that person, um, I don't think there's much difference. I think people are unhappy with the system in England and Wales, and they're unhappy with the system in Scotland as well. Northern Ireland's a little different. The waters are a bit muddy because of the political situation there in recent years, and also there's issues around Troubles era crimes. But for regular crimes in Northern Ireland, I'm not sure if there is a Northern Ireland sentencing council with the political stagnation there's been or not. Perhaps someone over there could clarify that. I honestly don't know, but this is a spontaneous video. So I'm going to read this report out, and I think it highlights Scotland's soft justice system. The report's by Gordon Curry. It's in the Scottish Daily Mail, February the 21st, 2024. A salesman who clocked the highest speed recorded in the UK by a drink driver, so he's actually set a record, he was going that fast, as he led police on a dangerous 30-minute car chase, has dodged jail due to his age. Cameron Alexander, 23, was nearly twice the alcohol limit as he drove at more than 140 miles per hour in a bid to evade officers. He veered repeatedly across the road as he struggled to control his high-powered BMW 320, Kirkcaldy Sheriff Court heard. He went the wrong way around a turn, around a roundabout and flew over speed bumps as he raced through built-up areas. Sheriff Stephen Borthwick, KC, said it has just been pure good fortune that you didn't end up killing someone or killing yourself. Your dangerous driving involved an excess of 140 miles per hour and over 60 miles per hour in built-up areas. When you were first directed to pull over and the officers left the vehicle to approach you, you drove off. To make that worse, you were nearly twice the limit for alcohol. The sheriff said he had to consider prison, but stopped short of jailing Alexander due to his age and lack of previous convictions. Eustace Judge, and I'll come back to that. Alexander was banned for driving for 16 months and given 200 hours of community work. That's the price for potentially, killing someone. The sheriff's judgment reflects guidance from the Scottish Sentencing Council (SSC), which was set up by the SNP government. The SSC urges leniency for under 25s on the grounds that their brains are not fully mature. Under 25s here. We're not talking under 18s, under 25s. Come back to that point. Alexander from Kirkcaldy had admitted drink driving on various roads in Fife on December the 27th, as well as failing to stop for police. He also pleaded guilty to driving dangerously at speeds in excess of 140 miles per hour and going the wrong way at a roundabout. Fiscal Deputy Andrew Brown told the court, Fiscal Dispute Depute, that's DEPUTE. I don't know if that's a legal term in Scotland or if it's just a mistake. Andrew Brown told the court officers observed a BMW pass him at speed at 2:50 a.m. They followed it and veered across the road several times. The vehicle stopped. As soon as officers alighted, he made off at speed. He continued north of the A92. Officers were unable to get close enough to bring him to a stop. He continued at 140 miles per hour or more. He was carrying too much speed into a roundabout, mounted the hub and suffered a puncture. He went the wrong way around a roundabout and entered Glenroughs. He failed to slow down for speed bumps. The vehicle began to smoke due to damage. The car eventually came to a halt and Alexander was arrested at Glenroughs at 3:22 a.m. David Cranston, defending, said he was a hard-working young man. He had his job 4 years. As a result of the shame of this, he didn't go back to work. I'd like to think he felt some shame. He is an anxious person who suffers panic attacks. At the time, he had slept and thought he was fit to drive. When police pulled him over, he panicked. Scottish Tory Justice spokesman Russell Finlay said, "A criminal who put innocent lives at risk has dodged jail because the SNP sentencing quango thinks adults should be treated like children." Nick Simmons of Road Crash Victims Charity Roadpace said, "Our members will be annoyed at a dangerous driver commits so many offences." I think annoyed is an understatement. With all due respect to Mr. Simmons, I think annoyed doesn't sum it up. A dangerous driver can commit so many offences and still not receive a custodial sentence. It makes no sense that age and lack of convictions can be seen as mitigating factors. So, a few things to look at with this case. The age thing. Now, we're not talking about a teenager, we're talking about a man, an adult. Under what insanity is someone who is up to the age of 25 not responsible for their own actions? I mean, I've never heard of a report, any sort of psychological report that suggests someone's brain isn't fully developed at 25. Perhaps a teenager, although even then I think, a teenager is old enough to know right from wrong. This guy maybe showed remorse. Maybe he doesn't have previous convictions, but this was not like he was going at 40 miles per hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. He was going at 140 miles an hour in urban areas. He was putting the police officers' lives at risk. And he was drunk. I mean, this is what sort of message does that send out? Did someone like that can avoid a prison sentence? Um, Now, if he showed genuine remorse and he never does it again, maybe there's a merit to be had. But I do not believe for a second that drink drivers change, because there's been so many cases where they just go back to what they're doing. I think they're selfish people, and that frankly, as far as I'm concerned, whatever turmoil is going on in someone's life, if they lose their job, if they're going through depression, if they've had a relationship breakdown, it never ever excuses getting behind a wheel drunk, even if it's a suicide bid, because you're putting other lives at risk. That's very different from someone, and I'm saying this in a sensitive way because, or hopefully sensitive way, because it's a serious subject. But if someone takes an overdose to take their own life, it's a tragedy, but they're not putting other lives at risk. Now, if someone is speeding because they're depressed and they want to take their own life, they're putting other lives at risk. And I'm not suggesting that's what he was doing here, but this narrative about him being anxious. A lot of people have anxiety; they don't put other lives at risk. I think he should have got a prison sentence, and a lifetime ban, or at least a very very long ban from driving. That's another thing I really don't understand is why dangerous drivers, both sides of the border, they don't get a lifetime ban. I'm not talking about someone who's going, say, 40 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, or 60 in a 50-mile-an-hour zone, or they get some points, for some minor violations. This is incredibly dangerous driving that could have killed someone. And I wonder what his sentence would have been if he had killed someone. Would he still get a tap on the wrist because of his age? And we talk about his age. This is an adult we're talking about, a man, not a teenager, a man. I mean, as far as I know, in Scotland, the age of a juvenile is measured similar to England and Wales. I don't know what the precise age is. I know in England and Wales, the age of criminal responsibility is 10 or 11. Um, so the idea that a 23-year-old man can escape prison despite committing a very serious offence strikes me as obscene. I think on both sides of the border, in England and in Scotland, dangerous drivers get far too much leniency. Um, and it's a disgrace. It's an insult to people who've lost loved ones or been seriously injured on the roads. It should be treated for what it is. It may not be in the same category as going out and stabbing someone, but it's an incredibly selfish thing to do, an incredibly reckless thing to do. When you get so many, this idea that he has no previous offences, so that makes it okay. I have no previous offences. If I go out, I don't drive, but if I did, and I went out because I was upset about something and I was drunk, and I killed someone, with the fact that I had no previous offences, should that be significant? Would that make a difference to the family whose loved one I had killed or seriously injured? Our justice system is pathetic on both sides of the border, but I think that the SNP's record on law and crime is woeful, um, and it shows their way of thinking is a 25-year-old is not responsible for their own actions. That to me is insanity. You could have a thug who attacks someone. You could have a terrorist who's in their early 20s, and they're. I mean, this is the thing. This guy is a salesman. You know, it's not even like he has learning difficulties or something. He's a professional, and yet it's infuriating. So shame on the SNP. And as for the judge, I do criticise him as well. Some will say he's just following guidelines, but he did have the option to send this guy to prison, um, and he chose to factor in his age and lack of previous convictions. Like I say, you know, you could have no convictions, you could have no criminality, and you could go out and kill someone. That does that make it less of a crime? It's a disgrace. So yeah, in the video, I spoke about Britain's soft justice system. Someone pointed out, oh, well, you're talking about England and Wales. Well, here I'm talking about Scotland. Shame on Scotland's soft justice system. But the point is, there's nowhere on these islands that have a justice system that people really trust because it is fundamentally too lenient, too often. Not in every case, but I do think for me, it's in two particular areas more than others. Violent youth crime, that is gang culture, and um, could probably say three areas actually: violent youth crime, dangerous driving, and also terror offences where someone has a previous record of stoking up hatred and so on, and they time and time again they get you know off the radar or they are given a tap on the wrist. What's his punishment? 16 months. Ban for 16 months. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And 200 hours community service. What does that work out at? If it's, say, that's 8 hours a day, he's going to see through that in a few months, probably. So it's a disgrace. In my opinion, what he should have got, because you know what, it's all very well for me to criticise, but therefore the onus is on me to offer an alternative. Given how fast he was going, um, I'd say at least a couple of years in jail and at least a 10 to 15 year driving ban, not a few months. Um, Not good enough. And also a mandatory course on the effects of road fatalities. You know, now it may be that he showed genuine remorse. Apparently, he felt so ashamed that he didn't go to work. So at least on this occasion, he has some remorse. But I still think it's too lenient. And you have other cases where such people show no remorse. Um, he's a salesman. He's a professional. I don't think he's stupid. So the idea that he wouldn't have known what he was doing, and I just don't buy the defense argument that he's anxious. Therefore, I mean, it's their job to defend him, but a lot of people are anxious. That's a cop out. Oh, I'm anxious, so I'm going to put lives in danger by driving like a maniac. Um, Scotland has some of the most dangerous roads in the United Kingdom. The A75 in Dumfries and Galloway is a road I know well because I used to go down that road with my family when they lived in that area. Um, Dangerous driving kills. It's not a small thing, and I'm sick and tired of leniency towards that, both Scotland and England and Wales. So shame on the Scottish Sentencing Council. They need to get into the real world. A 25-year-old, a 24-year-old, a 23-year-old is old enough to take responsibility. This idea that brain isn't developed is obscene. I mean, at 25, you could do pretty much anything. You could get married, you could drive, you could smoke, you could drink, you could serve in the armed forces. So the idea, well, the brains aren't fully developed, that is obscene. So in theory, a 24-year-old violent gang enforcer well, the brain's not fully developed. It's obscene. Shame on the SNP and shame on the Scottish Sentencing Council, and it has to change. I would absolutely support road peace and any opposition politician that would put pressure on changing this situation.